Hey, I hear you. I'm just momming, so I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there too, but I can hear you guys.
Okay. All right. Abu Aboye. Abu Shise, everyone. My name, as you can see, is DJ Asar. I've traveled under that name for many, many years. This is how Carlos and I met under this alias, but also as Awo Odutola Orisha Egumba de Isayemi. I am a Omo Awo of the Agbangban Awo of Oshogbo, Fakayode Faniyi, Oshogbo, which is in Osun State. I'm also a Elegun, or some people would call it Oje, but it is also the title of Elegun under the Esarun Oje of Oshogbo, the Agiri Awo, Baba Meta, Ogunjimi Meta, in which these titles or these paths as a priest I've been walking since 2004 and 2009. We started to, but we had a few technical difficulties. What brought me to the culture was two things. One, I had just moved to Atlanta from California, and I started to practice capoeira Angola. And as I was practicing that particular art, the knowledge of relationship with Kandombe began to bring the Yoruba aspect and those connections through that dance and that art form. Also, a series of circumstances in life that challenged my life a lot. You know, broken heart, disappointment, all different kind of things that would cause a person to seek deeper answers. And in that process, I ended up meeting a man from Belize and the Yoruba aspect and those connections through that dance and that art form. And when he took me also a series of circumstances in life that challenged my life a lot. You know, broken heart, disappointment, all different kind of things that would cause a person to seek deeper answers. And in that process, I ended up meeting a man from Belize and the Yoruba aspect and those connections through that dance and that art form. And when he took me also a series of circumstances in life that, you know, broken heart, disappointment, all different kind of things that would cause a person to seek deeper answers. And in that process, I ended up meeting a man from Belize and the Yoruba aspect and those connections through that dance and that art form. And when he took me also a series of circumstances in life that, you know, broken heart, disappointment, all different kind of things that would cause a person to seek deeper answers. And in that process, I ended up meeting a man from Belize and the Yoruba aspect and those connections through that dance and that art form. And when he took me also a series of circumstances in life that, you know, broken heart, disappointment, all different kind of things that would cause a person to seek deeper answers. And in that process, I ended up meeting a man from Belize I can hear you. Listen, it seems like every time I have a conversation, it's either technology or technology or something.
Did you talk to Ashu? Ain't no devil. That's Alegba playing games.
You're welcome.
Okay. So Alafia, everybody. Thank you for having me, Carlos. I'm happy to be here in the quarantine, even though I can't get a moment alone, but um, right, exactly. So, how did I get involved in the tradition? I was raised in the tradition. My mom is a priest. I think she has maybe, I don't know, 37 years or so of Obatala crown. And my father was an Akan, a Komfoa, when he passed away, which is a priest in training. But he was actually supposed to be like one of the first people in the United States to be initiated into the Akan system. So I was raised in a family that was involved in African traditional spiritualism before I was born. And so I am the eldest of all of my siblings. And so in 1994, I was crowned to Shango in the Lukumi system. And I have two younger brothers, and one of them is a fireman. So God bless him. He's a child priest of Obatala. And then my youngest brother, Oludare. I'm hearing a loop. Where you got me playing out of, Carlos? I said I was hearing my voice on a loop again, but I think it stopped. So yeah, then my youngest brother Oludare is a priest of Ogun, and he's in Olobata and Apon. My mother's an Apon, one of the primary African American Apon and singers for ceremony and Orisha for the past probably 30 years. So this is just all I really know. And so that's a blessing, and it comes with its own, you know, set of things as you try to navigate the world as an Orisha person by default, as opposed to someone who converted. It's been a very interesting path. So that is my religious trajectory, and then just I'm a singer and a songwriter, touring musician, and so all my gigs are canceled, and I'm home with the kids. Is that for me? How do I navigate that? Well, we kind of we we don't have a religion, so to speak. Ocha is our life. It's you don't like we don't go to church on Sunday and do Ocha and then that's it. You know what I mean? So that I was raised is integrated and just a part of who I was, and I didn't really grow up with a lot of shame around that, even though at very young ages I got the African booty scratcher and some of the teasing that came with that. But I was raised with so much pride and I guess a sense of normalcy around what it was to be an African in America, or an African in the Americas, because my father is Caribbean. um, that by the time it was time for me to be in school and being all white, we went to the principal, we went to my teachers, and we explained what was going to happen and what my rules were. And everybody was intrigued and followed it. And it was, we had so much personal respect growing up for what we do that everyone around us sort of had no choice but to have that same respect. And there have been times, I guess, as I got older, probably got difficult, just kind of living in a very Abrahamic, religious centric. I went to a Black college, so everybody was very, very Christian for the most part. And that's where it got a little more difficult, because that's where I really started to see that the default for a lot of African Americans, at least, is Christianity. And having to navigate what I feel is a Eurocentric worldview was difficult, you know. And just so over time, I've come to um, not have my own prejudices dictate how I deal with people, you know, and kind of respect everyone for where they are and hope that they can do the same for me without ever allowing anyone, you know, to disrespect what I do, and certainly not to disrespect Shango.
Well, in Atlanta, Atlanta was highly influenced by Oyotunji Village in South Carolina because of the proximity of its closeness, or being a neighboring state, and it was a easy drive. So Orisha was very big in Atlanta, but the pockets you would find here and there, okay? Because a lot of people at first weren't really outspoken about it. But as its popularity has grown since I want to say probably late 90s inside of Atlanta, and maybe even before, I wasn't there at the time. I've seen it grow into this mixture of different uh, groupings. So you have the influence of Oyotunji Village. Then you start having, because of the travels of the Araba of Osogbo, Chief Yemi Elibupan, coming to Florida in the 70s, coming to New York in the 70s. As early as the 80s, you had the Agbonban Fakayode Faniyi of Osogbo, in which they have an interrelated story because of their fathers. As they began to come, you start seeing now a more West African traditional way of doing Ifa compared to Orisha. During the 80s and 90s, you had a heavy influence of Akan, Asar and then Orisha. And somewhere in there, they all kind of somewhat intermingled a little, but kept their distance just enough to have their own groupings. So now currently what we have in Atlanta is we have where now law enforcement is beginning to look at the growth of this Orisha culture in Atlanta to the point where they're now beginning to label these young men and young women as the bead gang, because everyone has the plethora of eleke on, but they might be doing things on the wrong side of the law. Okay, so that brings up a whole nother uh, conversation. But Atlanta is growing in its Ifa and Orisha communities. So now you're starting to see temples, you're starting to see botanicas, and they're growing. Well, I've had this, like we all have, I'm going to say for you, maybe not Amma, but where our parents kind of were like, wait a minute, what are you doing? What is this? Okay. My mom didn't give me as much pushback, and we grew up in a Christian household. But the reality is that I was always, from the time I was probably in the fifth grade, pushing Black consciousness in the household. While my mom was going to college and had African studies classes and things like that, she wouldn't tell me about it. I can just see it in the clothes she made. I can see it in the books that she brought home. And it wasn't that she pushed Christianity onto us, because one of the things she said, and it's piggybacking something that you just said, she said, whatever path a person takes to get to God, as long as they get there, that's all that matters. And that taught me a lot, because I went through my journey of studying cultures and studying these religious groups. The Nation was big. Nation is Islam, for clarity. And then you had, the more southern slash East Coast, Akan, those things coming to the fore. And for me, once I got to Nigeria and I got a chance to experience that even the Christian comes behind the closed door at nighttime to get dafa or divination from Ifa. Even the Muslim or the Imam, because it's their tradition, they still come and they still get divination. The only thing is that they won't keep the shrine in the house. It'll stay at the Babalao's house. So it's kind of like a fine line that they skate. But how I am able to work within that is when people have a conflict or they start giving me pushback, then I go back into the same very system that they follow. And I go into the Bible and say, doesn't the Bible say in such and such verse that dun 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 dun? Doesn't it say in the Quran that dun 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 dun? So you have to not be a jack of all trades, but you have to kind of understand, so that way you can speak to the people in the language that they understand. So then that way you're not pushing them away, you're not ostracizing them, because we all have to find that inner guidance that gets us to witnessing and experiencing the Creator inside and outside of us.
Um, that's an interesting question because I get it all the time. And I never know sometimes, where people are coming from. I've actually honestly gotten to a place recently where I'm just like, let's have a few conversations first before I connect you to anybody that I actually know. Because I think that folks sometimes have a strange idea of what Orisha worship and Orisha what the lifestyle is and what their expectations should be. And so I try to impress upon anyone that's asking those questions that, there are magical things that are happening. There is supernatural, there's paranormal, and there's all that. But at the end of the day, you know, this is a religion of community and respect, and that, you know, this is not a place to come where you're going to learn spells to get what you want in that way. You know what I mean? And I think that it's just trying to impress upon people. She's yelling "I love you" out the window to a
And
bird.
we love her too for whoever she's speaking to.
Right. So, you know, but yeah, it's not, you're not coming to learn how. It's not Hogwarts. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not coming here to learn how to be a wizard and, you know, manipulate nature to your designs, even though we work with nature for our designs. It's like a mentality that I suggest that people have when they come seeking Ocha, that it's really about what you're trying to develop a relationship with is your particular path. What path did you choose before you came here? And I try to explain that what you're going to find in this tradition, no matter who you work with, if they're reputable and doing what they're supposed to do, what they're going to connect you to is your particular destiny this time around. Your ancestors, your egun that walk with you, your blood ancestors, what it is that they require, your particular path, whether it's priesthood or not. You know, because everybody isn't necessarily destined to be a priest. So I do a lot of preliminary conversation with people who come to me with that kind of question, just to kind of lay that groundwork. And then once we've established, you know, again, that Ocha is an Orisha tradition is not Hogwarts, and you're not coming here to learn how to, you know, the ancient school of wizardry. That's not what this is about. Then, you know, I say, okay, why don't you come around a little bit? Come to something public where it's cool for you to kind of just observe and witness, be it a, you know, a drumming or something like that. And a lot of people would say, you know, that a person should go get divination before they go to a drumming, which I definitely understand that school of thought. But I think that the reason why I've suggested that people go and kind of see something communal that's happening in the community that they're interested in first is because sometimes, like, you can pick up what's vibing with you just by witnessing what's taking place in that particular community. You know what I mean? Like, you'll feel it to a certain extent, and you'll also kind of see, if you live in, you know, Texas or Atlanta or New York or wherever, where this community that's doing what you want to do, what does it look like? How are the people treating each other? How do they speak to each other? You know, what are the gender relations and dynamics in that group? And these are all things that a lot of times, even outside of the spiritual, tend to take people out of the tradition. You know what I mean? Once they've gotten in. So I always suggest that folks take their time and just witness and see. And then, you know, if you go to a drumming or you go to, you know, something communal in public and you say, this feels good, I kind of like what I'm seeing, then you talk to that trusted person that you've consulted and see if you can get divination, and then get your particular next steps. Because one of the things that I love about pretty much every African traditional system is that although there are guidelines and rules, every person's path is individual, and what you're meant to do is what you're meant to do. So. Well, Did you have anything in particular that you wanted me to sing? Let me grab. All right. You know what's so funny? Like I owe you a song, Carlos. I do. I know, and I have it, and I performed it, but I just haven't recorded it and got it like down. Isn't that crazy? But I'm not gonna sing that today. But I'm gonna sing a Shango song. You wanna join me? All right. Say when mi le lupe ho ma oyo, ele kwe mi ho ma oyo, Shango ko ae ho ma oyo. When mi le lupe ho ma oyo, ele kwe mi ho ma oyo, Shango ko ae ho ma oyo. Emiso, eni alado somo heremie, emiso, eni alado somo heremie, mohe ohe, mohe heremie, mohe amala, mohe heremie, mohe mohe, mohe heremie, mohe akuko, mohe heremie. David is trying to sing along. Hey. Yo, she's trying. The big baby, I just ran her upstairs. This one, she's only one, so she's getting her mommy language together. She's just calling everybody mommy. But my 5-year-old, her say hi. Say hi. My 5-year-old, her favorite song is Aumba Waori. Aumba Waori. Awa Osum. Awa Oma. Lady Oma. Leyawo. Bobo Egum. Kawe. She been singing that since she was like 2. Yeah, that's the Egum baby. Yeah.
Well, the first thing that happens is okay. First thing that happens is people have a tendency to be intrigued by the beads. Eleke. They're like, I've seen those around. What are those for? And that's one of the first things that is kind of like a magnet for people, you know. And what happens is when they come to me, I ask them a simple question. I ask them the question of, are you willing at this moment to take your life as serious as you've ever taken it before? And they look at me and be like, what does that mean? I'd be like, well, your interest in Orisha will take you deep inside of yourself and your relationship to your creator, the nature that's around you, and the nature that's inside of you. And it's going to be something that's going to develop your path to spiritual development. And I focus on spiritual development. And they're like, well, because nobody ever explained it in that way to them. The first thing that they want to do is figure out who holds my head. It's like, so look, before we get there, let's ask a question. Do you know your mother? Yeah. Do you know your father? Sometimes yes and no. And I say, do you know that your mother and your father are your first Orisha? Oh, what? Really? Uh-huh. So then that leads, like Amma said, it leads to the door of questions that let's have a conversation first. So then that way we can get to a point of some understandings. So then that way, when you do make this conscious decision, the next inevitable step is if you want to find out these things about yourself, then we move to divination. Divination is going to give you the pathway in which we start in the moment, we look at the past, and then we look at what is moving you in your future for what your situation is. And you tell them, don't open Pandora's box if you ain't ready, because the things that are going to be revealed to you are the things that are the parts that you might be running from within yourself. And are you willing to begin to address these issues? Some of them say, yes, I've been waiting. I said, okay. Then we go through divination, we go through Ebo, and then from there, they start wanting to learn more. So you have people that want to do the thorough knowledge and the thorough study, but you also have people with their curiosity bug that wants to feel like they want to explore the more supernatural aspect of Orisha. And that in itself can invite or open the door for circumstances where they'll stay with you for maybe 2-3 months, and then after that they'll run away. Or if something gets revealed to them, they'll say it's your fault that this happened, and be like, no. So you have a lot of different circumstances when you're dealing with curiosity. But the best way that I guide them is when they want to seek divination, that begins to weed out a little bit of the curiosity, because now you have to do some work. Now you're serious. And then after that, I begin to guide them towards certain books of reading, because, if you ask anybody that studies with me or has been with me, they'll say, man, he runs that thing like a university course. He takes you deep into it, opens it up, length, breadth, and then makes it simple. So then that way you are not only getting what is the superficial information that can be presented out here, and then that's all you get, or how does this Orisha, as you see it in nature, how does it relate to what's inside of you as this element? So it's a twofold level of teaching where I make sure that they are able to see the microcosm and the macrocosm of things, the cosmological thing and the cosmogony of a thing.
Right.
So in that way, they can't say that I tricked them, I made up something. They said, listen, we each have a journey. It's just a matter of how deep you want to go with your journey. And that's how I'm able to get it to the people. And that will cause for their curiosity to start thinking, like, should I do this? And it's not to push them away. It's to actually get them to think about what's more important in your life. Is it your development, your relationship with your creator, your relationship with Orisha, your relationship with your Egungun? Which is more important? If they're all important to you, then this is the best place for you to land. Each part is going to develop your present and your future.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I'm hoping that now everybody can hear me. I just pressed another button. So apparently people still couldn't hear me on Facebook and YouTube. So I want to just very quickly say this, that for those of you that are here for the first time, the purpose of this is to share knowledge. And there are a lot of people here that are novices, that are curious about the tradition and want to learn. There's also a lot of priests and a lot of folks that are advanced in their studies. So the idea was, this is our third session. The first two sessions, as you know, Sar, we talked about spirituality and having that foundation and having a spiritual practice that helps you, guide you in your path. And we talked a little bit about the difference between spirituality and religion and ritual and those kinds of things. So and we talked about different books that are available for folks to learn from and research. There's obviously nothing that can replace being in a ritual. So one of the books that we showed was this book here, Ritual Use of Plants in Lukumi Tradition. And, you guys can't see it because of my background.
Yeah, your background is blocking it out. So don't.
No, we could do this. Check this out. Let's see if we could do this. You guys see it? There we go. There's the book. Boom. Okay. So we have the author of the book here with us today. And I wanted to invite her to talk a little bit about the notion of ashe and how the plants are used in our tradition. And maybe we can get her to talk about some other things because this person's very knowledgeable. So let me see if I can unmute. Oh, she's unmuted. Hi, Madrina. Bendición.
Hey.
How are you?
Santo. I'm good. Hi, everybody. How's the audio?
You sound great.
Great. I was having some trouble connecting. Yeah, thanks, Carlos. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for promoting my book. I really appreciate it.
Can you? Sorry. I could have you on here for hours, so I know we have limited time. Can you tell us a little bit, as much as you want or can, about how you got involved in the tradition? What led you on this path? Uh-oh. She froze. So for the folks that are asking, the previous chats are not available, but we'll cover those topics again. In the future, we'll have some of the same guests back on for more conversation. Unfortunately, it looks like Okumbemi is frozen, so hopefully she can come back.
May have to go out and come back in.
I tell you, when powerful conversation is about to come, it always seems.
You see what happens? What happens? Hopefully she'll come right back. There you are. Yeah, we didn't hear anything you said. So yes.
Yeah, so I just added a whole bunch of stuff. Anyways, it's with the same title, just so people don't freak out if they look at the cover and it looks totally different.
Can you hear?
So can you still hear me? Because everyone's black.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can't hear. I can't see.
Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear us? Hello.
It might be what you said, when we talked about, phone signal and things like that, and it being sometimes.
Yeah, can you hear us?
I can now.
Okay, so
I don't know. I got 5 bars. I don't know.
Okay, so let's try again. We didn't hear anything you said. So yeah.
Really?
Sorry.
I'm trying to show you that I updated my book.
Okay, I see it.
And the one that you guys are talking about isn't available anymore. And I added a whole chapter on Egun. I translated a bunch of Patakin. I added pictures. I added so many things. It's really not the same book. So
all right, I'm gonna need a copy of that then.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy. So it's third edition. That's all you. Same book title, just says third edition.
Got it. So do you mind telling us a little bit about how you got involved in the tradition, what your path was?
Living in New York, I was a very self-destructive person. Had a lot of issues. I was mad at everybody. Basically, I think the Orishas did an intervention on me.
Oh no! Ah! Cursed internet.
Can you hear me?
You said the Orishas did an intervention on you and then you went away.
You hear me?
A little bit. You keep coming and going. There
Oh,
you are.
sorry. I'm sorry. All right. So for me, I really feel that Orishas, Ogun especially, intervened in my life, and they got me off of a negative path. And it took a long time, but I finally got initiated in 1990 to Ogun. And once I was initiated, I embarked on a lot of studies. I got a lot of help from the Orishas. I had a lot of lucid dreams. I was able to connect with lots of elders. I was very fortunate. So I would say I was just lucky. That's how I got involved. I was lucky.
It sounds like you have some strong ancestors that guided you.
Yeah, I think the ancestors definitely approved. I mean, I would go to ceremonies and the Orishas would come up to me, give me messages. I went to a lot of voodoo ceremonies in the Bronx and saw a lot of Loa. I don't know, the Orishas and the Loa and the Eguns, they seem to make a lot more sense to me than the world. The world seemed crazy to me. I found a lot of wisdom. Found a lot of wisdom in the teachings, the patakin, the odus. To me, it helped me make sense of things.
Madrina,
It was very inspiring. I felt like it was something better,
yeah.
you know?
Madrina, you have a gazillion god kids. So this would be a good question to ask you. When someone comes to you and says that, I want you to be my madrina, or I want to be involved in the tradition, what kind of guidance do you give them? Someone that doesn't know anything, how should they start? Where should they go? What should they do?
That's rough because nowadays people come when they have already so much in their head, you know, because everything's on the internet. Um, first, I guess I asked them first to open their mind so that they could learn. Probably, if they're coming to me, I'm going to package it as a lukumi because that's my system. But there's so many ways to find the orishas. I think if they're going to come to me, then I'm going to explain to them that I'm a traditional lukumi priest and that they should be open to that way of learning because it's very disciplined, and that they should be patient. They need to have a lot of patience, and they should trust their egun, trust the messages that they get inside. Trust the feeling that makes them know something is right. If they feel like they're studying with me and they don't feel it's right for them, they should leave. They should go somewhere else because you have to vibrate with your teacher. If you don't vibrate with your teacher, then it doesn't really matter about all the rules. So I guess I ask them to have open their mind and then trust how they feel.
Perfect. Thank you. So getting back to the ritual use of plants, can you tell us a little bit about Ashe and the plants and how that works with rituals and how it works in our tradition? Because I mean, I've known you for a long time, and I
Yeah.
remember down in Florida, you and I looking for plants for ceremony, and I could see you like talking to the plants, like you were communicating with the plants.
Yeah.
And so, can you explain a little bit of that with me, with all of us?
Sure. I caught the end of some of the other speakers. I was trying to like sneak during my work and listen as much as I could, but I had to like sneak out of there so I could get on at the right time here. And I saw you were talking about Ashe. So to me, Ashe is vital force, you know, and everything on the planet. The rocks have Ashe, the water has Ashe, people have Ashe, sound has Ashe. You know, everything is based on Ashe, and they're all different. They're all vibrating at different levels. So the plants Ashe is specific to plants, and the plant's vibration will align it with certain orishas. So certain plants are like a plant manifestation of that Orisha. And some plants are so powerful that people write stories about them. That's the amazing thing, is our patakin have stories about plants. It's like you would hear a story about a great person or a great leader who led their people or saved people or whatever. We have plants like that. They're so famous that there's legends about these plants. Say, why does this plant have a legend? Well, it has this powerful ashe that creates a presence in the world. So you have something like, cotton. The cotton plant has a patakin. How when Olofin tried to destroy the world because he got so tired of everyone disobeying his orders, the first plant to come back after the destruction was a cotton plant. Said, "No, I'm coming back. I have the power to come back." And it took people, the energy of people, to go to that plant so they'd be healed by it and also come back. So I say, like, our plants are plants that save. They don't want to die, just like us. They want to live forever, just like us. And certain plants have more like a history of doing that. So you have something like the plant of what they call in Spanish Bleo Blanco, which is amaranthus in English, and it even has a song about it. So I mean, you're so famous, you're human, you're so famous, but you don't have a song about you, right? We have plants, they're so famous, we got songs about them. You know, la misa, la misa, la misa. So if you're so bad, how come you don't have a song about you? That plant, that song saying that plant, which is the bleo or the aramanth plant, which has a lot of history and other traditions as well. It has such a reputation for healing and for saving people that they had to write a song about it. And then people had to memorize that song. And then they had to include it in an Odu. And then they had to demand that if you make a sign to save life, that plant has to be there to witness. So that's ashe.
That's
When
it.
you have to have that kind of presence somewhere where they can't do anything without you, that's ashe. Like, I can't crown anybody if there's no where to yeye, which is the peony plant, right? I can't crown you if I can't find where to yeye. You're not getting crowned. If I can't find Peregun, you're not getting crowned. You have to bow my head to Osign because he's at the first door. Like, if my people aren't there, nothing's gonna happen. That's ashe. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, ashe has so many broad meanings. When I look at plants, I don't just see this plant life. I see something else. That's because I have so many layers that I've studied. I'm like, wow, you're a complicated being, plant. So I try to put some of that in my book so people could get that. I try to transmit that in my book as best as I could. I'm just hoping to share a little bit of knowledge to help everybody get uplifted, because it's a hard way out here. And the plants are there for all of us. And also the other thing is, globally, all the plants are connected and we're destroying them. So I encourage everyone who's listening to plant something. I don't even care if it's an Orisha plant. Just plant something, because Osign's being destroyed and we need to multiply him as much as possible and add to his presence as much as possible. Help for the general healing. Even if you use a plant that's not so-called Orisha plant, it doesn't matter. It still belongs to Osign. It would be good if you could study our plants and then grow our plants, because the more plants you grow of us, the more you keep the Orishas on the earth. You plant Oshun's plants, Yamaya's plants, Elegua's plants, Ogun's plants, and then you're going to give them another place they can sit in and be in. And then when you go to that plant with respect and you stand before that plant and you know its name or you call it by its song, it responds to you. It's like, oh, you know me. Okay, I'm going to go with you then. I give you permission to rip me and extract my power. But if you don't have that permission, like you're not initiated or you haven't been presented to a sign in certain ways, you'll still get it, but you'll get like a lower dose, is what I could say.
That's it.
So the more rituals you have, the more ceremonies you have, the more you consecrate yourself, the closer you get and the ashe you'll access. That's why we have all these complicated ceremonies. That's why it's so complicated and we have to do so many things and sing all these songs. It's just about getting closer. It's not that you don't have it. If you don't do those ceremonies, you do have it. Everyone has it. But it's about getting closer. It's kind of like you go through gates.
Right.
Get you a little closer, a little closer. That's why they have the ceremony in the first place. That's why you have initiations in the first place. It's to bring you a little bit closer. But that's not to say that other people don't have it. It's there for everybody. It's just people need to get a little closer because maybe their destiny is like they have to share it or they have to be able to access it to give it to other people or whatever reason, we don't know. So you got to respect the ceremony. It exists for a reason. You know, I don't rate anybody's ceremony, say one's better than the other or whatever. If it exists and there's a tradition for it, ashe. If you're called to it and you can get yourself closer, ashe, do it. You know, my particular way is my way, and it has a roots, it has a lineage, so I'm gonna stick to that. But if yours also, then I say ashe. We're both doing the same thing, so what's the problem?
Ashe.
You know, I mean, we're not doing the destructive part. We're not doing the part where we rip up trees and rip up plants and put concrete. We're doing the other part where we grow and we help people heal. So if we're both doing the same thing, I don't really care if you do it standing on your head or wearing white or wearing purple or whatever you're doing. We got to realize we got to work together. That's all. That's why I published the book.
Ashe. And
I hope people get something out of it.
so I thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
I want to add to that for those that are just, asking the question, well, what is tete? What is tete? Think about Kalalu. Those of you who love Kalalu, that is tete abalaye. That is the herb that she is speaking of. There's also an Odui father that talks about Osayin being the junior brother to Orumela. And Orumela basically brought him home and said, hey, I need you to clean this yard back here for me while I go away to go do some work. And he's like, all right, I'll be here. And bear in mind, I'm paraphrasing. He comes back and says, why is the backyard not clean like I asked you to do? He said, because you're asking me to take away these plants, and this plant is good for this. This plant is good for that. This plant, and for what Madrina is saying is that every plant has a use. Even when you look in your yard after the rain, you'll see a plant that's something that we even use in Ifa, and they grow from Nigeria to Cuba to Florida to Georgia, California, everywhere. So make good use of these plants, please.
Ashe.
I just wanted to add that.
Ashe. Madrina, I have one more question for you, and feel take your time to talk as much as you want or as little as you want. You are an Obasa, a female Oba, and there aren't that many today. There used to be a lot of them. Can you talk a little bit about what that process was like for you, and talk about what the role of the Oba is, and being a female Oba?
You had to bring that up.
Hey, listen, in your book, you quoted an Odu here. What is it? Obedi, right? Everybody. Okay.
Knowledge is
exactly.
All right. I'm gonna paraphrase. So,
can I so quick that I really, really want to hear this. My mom is training to be an Oba, and so tradition of Latuan and everybody, our ancestors that did this, that were female. You're very important. And she didn't know about you. I told her about you yesterday. She done bought the book and everything already. So we really want to hear what you have to say. It's of great importance to us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that. So right now, as far as I know, active functioning Obas, females in the world, I believe there are 4 in Venezuela. Personally, I know 2 in Venezuela. One of my closest friends, Gladys Omitoke, Gladys Quiroga. She is a functioning, she shaves, she does ita, everything, and she also functions as an Ifa. Okay? There's also 3 other women in Venezuela, as far as I know, that are functioning Obas. In Cuba, as far as I know, there's one woman, I think her name is Marisol. She's a functioning Oba. She shaves, does ita. And then there's one other woman, Odalis. She has a boom maid. She's being trained by Hector Ochosi. She's in Matanzas. I don't know if she's actually started shaving yet, but I know she's training. And the last time I saw her in Cuba, we sat down and she told me where she was at, and she said she was just about getting ready to start shaving. And then in the United States, I know that Willie Ramos has a student who is training. I don't know where she's at yet as far as if she's actually shaving yet.
That might be,
but
she's one of his students, and she has shaved her first head. So
good. That's great.
She's Adetunde.
Okay, great. So, and I'm shaving. I'm doing everything. I shave. I do ita. I've shaved at least, I don't know, maybe about 30 heads so far. I do ita. Very controversial. I do matanzas. I open goats. I make osign. I'm scratching osign. I'm kind of like an outlier in the fact that not too many women that are doing the things that I'm doing. So in the world, there's very few of us, and I hope that we can all stick together. As far as my path, it hasn't been too easy. It's kind of hard to, when you're kind of drawn, or maybe it's your destiny, and it's a lot of the people don't want you to go there, but you can't stop. You can't give up. It hasn't been easy. I got a lot of pushback, But every time I got pushed back, the Orisha would do something to make it happen. It was so crazy. Every single time somebody tried to stop, the Orisha would intervene, and they would make something happen so that I could go forward. I remember when I first I actually did the ceremony with Etekutan and Ifa. I went to Havana. Received from Obefunfunlo, which is a controversial ceremony because a lot of the Obas never had this ceremony, but I decided I would receive the ceremony because, like I told you, every ceremony has a purpose. So even though Obas don't usually receive Etekutan, I did Etekutan. And I had my hands consecrated to do your own ita. I did that. After the whole thing, I told the Babalao, I said, okay, thank you for the ceremony. Thank you for the poderes, because he gave me the poderes of Igbaidun. And anyways, that's a lot of details. But I said, who's going to represent me? Who's my teacher? He said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm not an Oba. I need a teacher. I need an Oba to take me under their wing and represent me and teach me the details. You can't just give me a ceremony and throw me out there and tell me that I'm an Oba. I'm sorry, man. He's like, well, I didn't know you wanted that too. And I said, yeah, I want that. And he said, well, I'll see what I can do. So he starts calling all the Obas in Havana to see if they can hook up with me so I can have a teacher. Nobody was available. And so he said, come back tomorrow. I came back tomorrow. I said, what's up? Who's going to be my teacher? He's like, I don't know. I'm calling. These people aren't available. He said, wait, let me, this guy, his name is Jorge. He's never available. He's so busy. He's one of the biggest Obas in Cuba. And I said, Jorge, he said, never mind. I'm going to call him. I was like, just get somebody. Because I'm not going back to the States with this ceremony and telling people I'm an Oba and I don't have a teacher. He calls. On the first call, this guy Jorge picks up. He's like, hey, Abure, ¿cómo está? I have, so-and-so here, and she wants, she just did it at the Kutan. She needs a teacher. Jorge's like, bring her over. So they put me in one of those old cars. They drive me into some place in La Víbora, and they put me on the side, and they say, go up to the 4th floor. Here's his apartment number. I go up to the 4th floor. I've never been there before. I knock on the door, and I'm going, and I hear a voice. He's like, who is it? I said, I'm looking for Jorge. He's like, who is it? I said, Maria. Opens the door. Jorge Ogunlana, my best friend. who I've known for like 20 years, who's one of the best obas in all of Cuba. He's in the council of the Oba Oriatés. He goes, my sister. He said, mi hermana. I said, mi hermano. We hug each other. He has Ogun mate for like 30 years. He says, you're the Maria? I said, you're the Jorge? We couldn't believe it. He invited me in and he said, Maria, you're not my student, you're my sister. If I could take my head off my shoulders and put it on your shoulders, I would do that. And he said, you come to my door, you come anytime, and I'm going to teach you everything. So that's what I'm talking about, intervention. Wow. And me and Jorge, I study with him. I still have a hole in my heart from when he died. Nobody's going to fill that hole. He's my teacher, Jorge Ogunlana. They called him El Papa, meaning he was the Pope. They called him El Papa. We went to Matanzas. He reviewed my songs. He had me do a pretend Ocha in front of him where I shaved and I sang. He taught me Odu, everything over the years, going back to Cuba, breaking the law to go to Cuba when it's not legal and going there. And that was it. I mean, I had a teacher. I had somebody who didn't look at me for being female or not being Cuban or whatever I am. He just saw someone whose destiny was to be an Oba. And, lose life of his spirit. And I just feel like so lucky, so blessed that I have just a little teaching from Ogunlana to keep with me and to try to pass it on and to try to, when he looks down from Orun, hopefully he will feel happy that, he took the time to teach me. But I'm still learning. There's so much to learn. You never stop. I have a lot more to learn. I still have my connections of people in Cuba that I ask questions of, but there's only been one teacher. There's only been one teacher. There'll only be one teacher for me.
Okay.
Ogunlana. So
wow.
That's a piece of my story. But meanwhile, that was while everybody in the world didn't want me to be an Oba.
That's it.
That's why it's so cool. Because believe me, people were like, in Spanish, mandándome pa carajo, because I thought I could be an Oba. Or I could say, like, they wanted me to go to hell rather than be an Oba. A lot of people. But you can't stop it. It's destiny. So it's in my Odu. So what can you do? You have to put up with me.
Amazing.
I'm not going anywhere.
Thank you, Madrina. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I know a lot of people, and a lot of us have a lot of heart for Ocha, and your love for Ocha is so pure, and you're inspiring to all of us. I know some of your God kids, some of my God brothers and sisters are on the chat, smiling from ear to ear. So thank you for sharing that.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you. And you're always welcome. I'm going to try to do this every week. We'll see. I just got inspired. Like I was telling folks before, I've been asked ever since this quarantine thing to do a live DJ set and everything, and everybody else is doing that. And I didn't feel like doing it. I felt like doing this. So thank you for joining us.
That's great, Carlos. I love what you're doing. You're healing people with music. People need it, and I support you 100%. I'm not the type to get in front of an audience. I don't like that, but I do it for you.
Well, you're doing it for everybody, so thank you. We all appreciate it. I've been getting a lot of messages. These conversations, people love it, and we need it. So thank you for joining us. So I'm definitely going to have you back on. Shout out to Omia Chegun, who's out there. My sister Elise, Omitola. What's up? I don't know who else is out there from the house, but thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Madrina. Everybody else, please go ahead if you have something else to share. Please go ahead, and otherwise we're gonna wrap up soon. Thank you, Madrina.
There was I'm gonna add one thing before we go. That kind of ties into some of our earlier questions, and it was a note that I put in when you take notes and you put it in a book, and then you find that book and you come back to it. It was a very powerful statement that said, if you want to fulfill your destiny, You will have to walk the path through the land, the hills, the water, the thorns, and the troubles. If you pass through and can afford to do this, you will land in a holy place. If we continue to search and search the end of our journey, if we continue to search, the end of our journey will be a cooler place where we will have a good head where it is holy and smooth. So one of the things that, this journey definitely has done for me, and like Madrina said earlier, there's some points in life when you're just at a rough spot, and you might have been involved in things that you couldn't have even imagined yourself being involved in. But this journey through this priesthood has shown me more wisdom and how to access it for my development in my human character. In another priesthood, it taught me the pain of death. And that pain of death let me know that not only are your ancestors real, but the power in which they exude with an individual who has to have that access to call them for others means that if there's one thing you should rely on, first and foremost is your ancestors, because they are you, they're in you, and they will be here until their name is not called anymore. Secondly, once your relationship with the divine becomes interconnected, then your journey now begins to smoothen out, because they say Orumila is the one who takes the crooked line and makes it straight. He's the one that smooths down the edges with the wisdom of Oduifa. But if a person is willing to take this source of knowledge or this source of wisdom into their life as food, as a thing that will help to nourish their soul, it will allow for them to take those things that have taken them off the beaten path and bring them back to the path of not only good character, but good, gentle, and balanced.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
Any final words?
Not especially. I just want to say thank you again for having me on this talk. I've been watching, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And, just want to continue to encourage everyone while we deal with the, I don't want to say the elephant in the room, but, the overlooming prospect of the coronavirus, and just thanking Egun and Orisha for us being spared and continuing to ask Babalua Watoto as he walks the earth to continue to spare us in our communities, and that, we are humbled in the face of this phenomenon and everything that's happening. And I want to encourage everyone to continue to be prayerful, continue to be grateful, continue to be quiet when we need to be quiet, and loud when we need to be loud, and just, remembering that even as we're isolated, that we still have a community. And that's why I'm really grateful for this platform that you have set up, because we have to be reminded in a very human way that we still have community and that we're still connected to each other, whether we see each other all the time or not. Just thank you, and Maferi Funego, Maferi Funarisha, every day, all day.
Thank you. Madrina, any final words? Thank you, Madrina.
It's like Arete Meji says, we will overcome the blocks and obstacles as we climb the tree of wealth called Ogege or Agege, depending on where you're located. And these blocks and obstacles that are being placed in front of us will only be removed by our tenacity and our faith in the divine to carry us through these difficult times. So may we all have the fear of Oludumare in the back of our mind, but at the same time have the surety that Ifa has seen everything. Ifa shows us everything. So at this time, may all things be revealed to us, whether it is the secrets that they are doing in the dark or what it is that we must do as individuals to move our family and our lives forward during this time. So, say I said to that, Carlos, man, thank you so
brother.
much.
Thank you. So the last thing I'll say is I didn't get a chance to get to questions. We'll do that next time. A few people asked about a link for the books. There is another book. Madrina also wrote a book on the Anago language of Cuba. Anago is a dialect of Yoruba, and that's another book that she's written. That's amazing. Is that what you're holding up? That's the plant book. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, the plant book.
Yeah. So.
Remember.
Yeah. So I'm gonna.
The other one.
I'm gonna post the links on. So there's an Instagram page called Ocha Talk. So if you go to Instagram and look for Ocha Talk, all one word, I'll post a link to where you can get the 3rd edition of the Ritual Use of Plants in Lukumi Tradition book, which I'm gonna get one immediately. And I think I saw the Anago book on Amazon, but it was like $40 because I think it's out of print. So, is there another way to get the Anago book?
Anago. You could go to lulu.com. I'll send you the link.
Great.
Or you can go to my website, ogunbemi.com.
Ogunbemi.com.
And I'll personally mail it to you.
Awesome. How do you spell ogunbemi.com for everybody?
OGGUNBEMI.
OGGUNBEMI.
Ogunbemi.com.
Okay. So I'll post that as well.
I'll send you a link.
I'll post that all on Ocha Talk. Thank you. Everybody have a terrific weekend, and we'll continue the conversation. Everybody stay blessed. Odabo.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.